Today we're going to be talking about everything that has to do about injuries, whether you are currently going through an injury or you've sustained one in the past. These are all the things that you can do to get through these difficult times. Before we get started, my name is Mark. I am a doctor of physical therapy, half of Mobility Duo, alongside my wife, who is a licensed massage therapist, yoga instructor, high school teacher, personal trainer, etc., etc. And we do all of this primarily for snowboard-based athletes in regards to strength, injury prevention, mobility, etc., etc. And last but not least, I am not a psychologist, but I am a doctor of physical therapy, so I have personal experience with athletes and injuries. But if you are in a dark place, I will put some numbers in the description below. So I thought it would be interesting to go over some statistics in regards to the snow sport world. So as you already know, we work primarily with snowboard or snow athletes, so why not talk about some of these injury statistics? I looked up two studies from 2021 and 2020 that looked over the United States and the injury prevalence within. So in 2020 alone, there were about 200,000 injuries within the United States. That's about 3.49 injuries for every 1,000 skiers and snowboarders. Males, unsurprisingly, were the most commonly injured. Blue and green runs surprisingly encompass about 87% of these injuries. About 12% of that comes from the terrain park. The freestyle skier was the most commonly injured athlete, second only to snowboard athletes. And falls, of course, are the #1 way to injure yourself. So, lastly, what are the most common injuries? I had to pull from a few different resources here, but I was able to find the #1 injury on the slope is a contusion, also known as a bruise. Second was shoulder. Now that could encompass a rotator cuff injury, labral tear, dislocation, anything like that. Third was a wrist fracture or a ligamental tear. Fourth was a knee injury, and that also includes ligamental, patellar, tendon, anything like that. Last but not least, #5 was a concussion. So now that you know the mechanism of injury on the slopes within the United States and the prevalence, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I've considered myself an athlete my whole life. I've played every single sport there is, and I've been snowboarding around 20 years now. I've broken about 8 bones in my body, including my toes, ankles. My worst was my tibia and fibula break, wrist, nose, fingers. I have a rod, a 14-inch rod in my left tibia with about 4 screws. Both my toes are fused that I can't bend them. I've nearly cut my hand off with a skill saw. I've torn my meniscus in my right knee. Oh, by the way, I didn't mention I have a history of herniated discs as well. And lastly, I chose for my life's work to work with injured athletes of varying degrees because it's so close to my heart. I've been blessed to be in a unique position to work with varying patients and clients in their most vulnerable times of life, to see them from the very bottom to the very top, even exceeding what they were before seeing me. And I consider that very special because I've been able to examine not only the psychology, but what's going on within the physical side as well. And I can give you my perspective as an American of how important movement is for many people, and it encompasses our identities. Now, we can look at our identities based on a number of factors, whether that could be my work, my past and current experience, my hobbies, my community and culture. Those are just a few. And I like to look at this on a spectrum, and some of these are more important to others. So some, like my culture, community, may be more important than my hobbies or my work. I find that in America, work tends to be near the top, or if I go to Europe, it's not so much the case. Now, what I see when someone gets injured, specifically in snowboard-based injuries, is this is a huge part of their identity because it's a huge part of their life. Now, when someone gets injured, that's stripped away. All of a sudden, they're in a very vulnerable position because they can no longer pursue this because now they're having to deal with maybe something else, maybe something within that. Snowboarding is this expression of creativity and freedom, and when that's taken away, you now have to sit back and deal with what's going on within. Maybe your community is based on the mountain and you no longer have that, and maybe you've attached your identity to this incredible sport. Many people don't know what to do when that's taken away because they don't plan for it. Nobody plans to get injured. Like I always tell my clients and patients, the only true way to prevent injury is to literally not move. Now, we can do all of these things to prevent injury, and that's what we often preach, is injury prevention and prehab. But at the end of the day, I could walk off a curb and sprain my ankle. I could walk across the street and get hit by a bike, or worse, a car. Fluke accidents happen all the time, and there's nothing you can do to truly 100% prevent that. Now, before I get into the things that you can do to expedite that healing process and really create a more conducive environment for injuries, you have to know that most injuries have a natural healing timeline. So what does that mean? For a great example is low back pain. It's $1 billion industry, unfortunately, within the United States. And people are desperate when they have low back pain. So what can we do to expedite this process, to prevent it from happening again? A lot of people, if you didn't do anything, would naturally get better. Many people do. Why do we pursue physical therapy and other courses of action? Well, we move in a way because you want to introduce stress to the body in a good way. Now, you hire or utilize an expert in their field like me, like someone else, like a physical therapist or a very skilled personal trainer, to be able to move in ways that are appropriate in that progression. So by moving, by resting, etc., you incorporate blood flow. Now, blood flow brings in nutrients, it takes away toxins. You stress the tissues to rebuild properly. You stress the body to move in ways to be able to handle those loads again. If you don't, if I were to just sit here, let's say I'm recovering from a ligamental issue in my knee, sometimes scar tissue builds up. You know, the term motion is lotion is really, really true in many cases, not always, but it really brings on great properties, whether that is nutrients, liquid, etc., but it also moves those fibers over one another to be able to create a strong bond rather than building up into a tight formation like cement. So without further ado, what are some things that you should be doing when you get injured that can make your life better, expedite this process, and really approach this in a manner that's going to set yourself in the right direction immediately? So like you can already imagine, as a physical therapist, movement is key. A little bit of rest is okay, at least in the beginning. You know, whether you are managing that discomfort in some ways, whether you're testing the waters to see what you're capable of, a little bit of rest is always encouraged. But you'll often see now that surgeons, PTs, doctors are overly aggressive in a good way with many of these injuries, whether you're post-surgical, whether you're recovering from an ankle sprain, whatever it is, you're probably going to be really aggressive in that movement aspect. I already mentioned some of the benefits of the movement. Hormones that are increased, growth hormone, testosterone, whatever, nutrients, removing toxins, stressing in a good way, creating positive movement patterns that stress it and allow it to rebuild in certain ways. Movement is probably going to be near the top. For many people that I see that are dealing with an injury, they don't know what to do. They're scared to move in certain ways. But the beautiful thing about the internet is there are so many resources out there. So find someone or something that you trust. The other issue and the other coin of that is there's a lot of misinformation out there. A lot of people can throw information out there that don't have the credentials, or maybe even if they do, they don't know what they're talking about. If you can't afford someone that knows what they're talking about, that has the education and credentials, find a resource that does. Second only to movement, I would say, is nutrition. You know, if we look at the body like an engine, we want to replace that oil, we want to keep those fluids tip-top, and we want to keep it clean. So nutrition really are the resources that your body is using to rebuild itself. In a time of injury, more than any other time in your life, you need healthy nutrition, great resources to help your body rebuild properly. You know, by no means am I a registered dietitian. I will always err on the side of reaching out to an expert who is a registered dietitian, who has the education behind that. But essentially, are you getting the proper fats, carbs, proteins, et cetera, water, electrolytes, vitamins, minerals? Third, I would say community is oh so important, and they're finding now, even for longevity, for health span, community is one of the most important things you can do in your life, even more so when you're injured. Are you surrounding yourself with positivity? Are you getting rid of toxicity? When you are in a positive community or surrounded by positivity, you keep those hormones where they should be. When you are stressed, when you're depressed, the cortisol level spikes. You can't sleep. When that cortisol level is up, your body can't heal itself properly. So really surrounding yourself and purposely putting yourself in positions when you're around people that love you, people that care, people that are going to lift you up, not bring you down. On the other side of this, like I mentioned, rest is okay in the beginning. It's okay to feel sorry for yourself, to be angry. I can often think back at all the injuries that I've gone through, and I immediately think of, crap, if I had just taken one step to the right, if I had just avoided this feature, I would have been fine. If this person hadn't been here, 2 seconds earlier, whatever. It's okay to reflect for a little bit. It's not okay to continually reflect over a long period of time, because again, it's just going to bring you down over the long run. Rest. Of course, you can already imagine rest is oh so important. Dr. Andrew Huberman often talks about how important rest is, not only for someone who's injured, someone who's quote unquote healthy. Rest is when your body recovers, when it rejuvenates, when it repairs itself. And rest should really be at the top of the list and a priority for so many people. So make sure that is a priority for you when you are injured. Self-talk and visualization. I don't think we do this enough. Self-talk is that inner voice in your head. The Power of Now is a great example of this for those of you who have not read it. It really talks about that monkey in the head, and that monkey really controls a lot of our actions. We subconsciously move and think in certain ways based on years of movement patterns or experience, etc., whatever you want to call it. And it's really important that we can control this. The other side of that is visualization. So we've talked about visualization on the snowboard. This also encompasses your day-to-day life. So are you spending time 5, 10, 20 minutes a day visualizing and thinking about how can I make this process better? How can I make these changes, these positive changes in my life? What are my goals for the next month, 6 months, 12 months, 5 years? And really always reflecting on that. Now, there's something to be said about presence, and you can also focus on that. And that comes back down to, what is that inner voice saying? Are you truly present in the moment? New skills. Use this time, especially if you are bedridden and unable to move in a quote-unquote normal manner. Use this time to learn a new skill, to learn a language, to work on other parts or skills that you've been wanting to look at for a long time. The resources are out there. It's usually the time. Now you have the time, so why not use that to make a positive change in your life when you have this time available? On the other side of that, there's that self-identity. So we can use this time, and it comes back to that time for self-identity, that reflection, that visualization. Who are you during this moment? It's during these times of hardship that we really get to know who we are. Can we go through these hurdles in life? Because I promise if you can get through this, this will make the next one so much easier. And I promise there will be a next one, because that is part of life. It's these ebbs and flows, but we want to try to control are these drastic ebbs and flows, kind of like our happiness. We want to try to maintain that kind of wave-like feature to be able to adapt to new situations, to new hardships that may occur when we least expect it. And another great opportunity during these times are to focus on others. If you have a hard time focusing on the situation, what you could be doing, maybe you see your friends on the mountain or on the soccer field, wherever it is, it's a great time to focus on others. Do you have the ability to volunteer and help others, to help a family member, to help a friend in need? This is truly a great excuse because, as we all know, helping others is the ultimate form of happiness. What better time than now to be able to execute that? So of course I'm probably missing something, but this is from my own personal experience, not only from past injuries, but from a health professional perspective that I've seen from the thousands of clients and patients that I've worked with. These are the consistent patterns that I see. and the positive changes that people can make in their lives and have made in their lives to become a better version of themselves after and during the fact. So I encourage you to write these down, to rewatch these, to maintain that positivity in your life, because this is only a temporary. Injury is temporary. And I promise when you recover from this 6 months, a year, again 5 years from now, you can look back upon it and smile and see how much you've grown, because I promise you will get past this. I hope this helped. I can only imagine if you are going through an injury right now, I'm so sorry, but I promise it will get better. If you have had a past injury and you can empathize and relate with this, please comment below. Let me know what you think and share your story. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I will see you all very soon.